So tell us about this story that you published today on the talent wars shaking out in Asia.
Sure. So our story is about how the battle for top AI talent is heating up in China. And we are looking at how Tencent is aggressively trying to poach the best talent from ByteDance. ByteDance is the company that owns TikTok. And to attract those researchers, Tencent sometimes offering to double their salaries, and it has already hired some of them. And Tencent is one of the biggest and tech companies in China. And but when it comes to developing AI models, it has been kind of lagging behind.
Hmm.
And our story shows that Tencent's really, finally getting serious about building a stronger research team, and it is trying to bring more talent to compete more aggressively in AI models.
Now, you mentioned that some of the salaries have been doubled in some cases. How big are these salary packages now compared to the hundreds of millions of dollars that we see AI researchers getting paid here in the US?
Yeah, I think overall, definitely the salary levels, what we hear in China is nowhere near, what, some of the reports said about Meta, earlier this year offering tens of millions of dollars, or sometimes $100 million, yes. But in China, definitely the numbers are smaller. I mean, overall wage differences and, lower cost of living and, historically, Chinese companies haven't paid as much as those big US companies. But still, it is a big deal that within China, the the competition over talent and and paying for talent is just as intense. And
Right.
Tencent's now offering higher salaries to bring people from ByteDance. And
Hmm.
so within China, definitely it is getting more intense. And sometimes we do see also Chinese companies bring people from the US. And in those cases, obviously they have to offer, more comparable salaries, to what US companies offer.
Hmm.
So, and in this story, we mentioned how Tencent earlier this year hired a researcher from OpenAI.
Hmm.
And obviously, in those cases, they do have to, uh,
You have to
offer
pay up.
movement. They have
Yeah,
to
to
pay
make
up.
it
Yeah.
competitive. Right.
Yep.
I'm curious, how does the talent war between the big tech companies in China, how does that compare to the talent at startups like DeepSeek? This is a story here in the US as well around the decision researchers face. Do I go it on my own? Do I join
Mhm.
a company that can grow into the next OpenAI possibly? DeepSeek must have some pretty strong researchers over there.
Yes, and one thing that's quite unique about DeepSeek is that it did rely a lot on domestic AI talent. So, a lot of Chinese researchers who were educated in China, from Chinese universities, PhDs from Chinese universities, and that in China there is, a big pool of talent coming out of places like Tsinghua University, where PhD research labs, those researchers often are hired as interns for DeepSeek or other startups. And so there were a lot of those student interns, PhD interns that participated in DeepSeek's development of models like R1.
Hmm.
So that's a big talent pool. And uh, in the case of big tech giants, you also do see, people who have studied in the US, because there are a lot of Chinese researchers who come out of, who get their PhDs in the US at the top US schools. And then some of them stay in the US to work for Silicon Valley companies, but others also, go back to China and work for Chinese companies. So, places like ByteDance or Alibaba, they also have some of those researchers as well.
Right. Now, you talked a little bit about how Tencent's progress is shaping up these days in AI. Has it been above expectations, below expectations? You talk a little bit about how they are trying to come back up from behind. Why hasn't their progress been as strong as you might have thought originally for such a big tech company?
So I think there are multiple factors, but Tencent is definitely, one of the most resourceful tech companies in China, and it was one of the biggest drivers of mobile internet in China with WeChat. But its strengths people see this Tencent strengths as the ability to build, the best apps and make them really popular, drive a lot of traffic and, like WeChat and other apps, right? And so when the battle became really the new AI battle, you know, they face a different kind of challenge. Like the ability to develop the best model is very different from what they're good at with developing, products, the applications. So historically, Tencent wasn't seen as like the research powerhouse, but now what we are seeing is that they are really trying to step up. And they have always had an AI research team like other companies have, but they really seen that they need to do more. They need to like shake up the team and bring some outside talent, like the researcher from OpenAI. So those are the changes that we're seeing.
Let me ask you one more question before we let you go. This is all dealing with the pool of existing AI researchers, and they are certainly in scarcity in the US, in China. I wonder if you can speak to at all any of the training programs or any of the education, how that is shaping up in China or in Asia more broadly. Is there a concerted effort there to train more machine learning researchers and engineers to create more supply of this cutting edge talent?
Definitely, like China does produce a lot of PhDs in that field now, and like I mentioned, Tsinghua University, for example, is in Beijing. It's a big institution for that, and there are some startups also that came out of that university's researchers. And there's a startup, for example, in Beijing called Chupu, which we wrote about before. So they were set up by some of the top researchers from the university. And then they also hired some student interns from that university. So there is a sort of, those they're not necessarily training programs, but there is a lot of hiring of PhD interns, which it's not just that startup, but a lot of other big tech companies, also do that. And those are sort of becoming the, training programs in a way. Though those interns are, being given a lot of responsibility in, a lot of cases. And like, they did participate in the development of very important models at DeepSeek and other places.
Great. Well, Juro, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's a great story and one that I think we'll be watching more closely. Thank you for coming on. That is Juro Osawa, one of our Asia reporters here at The Information.